Great. So this tutorial is just about explaining briefly some basic concepts of mediation analysis that can be useful when you want to write your method section, result section, or run your analysis. So I would recommend watching this video before going to watching the other tutorials for analysis or even power analysis. So in general, I mean, you all are familiar with the general concept of a mediation model that looks like this. However, there are some nuances and some specific terms and labels that we use to describe a mediation model and different effects included in the mediation model that it's important that you know that before starting getting involved with your analysis. So as you can see here and explained also in this page, like this is your IV or independent variable. M is mediator, dependent, or this actually mediator is just M, and Y is your DV or dependent variable. And in software, like some software like SPSS, you will use that such terms like that also are used. So it's good that you know that Y is usually DV, X is usually IV. The next important part is getting to know the labels of A, B, C prime, and C, and what does it mean. So this is not just for the purpose of this model. These are the conventions that we typically use for any type of mediation model. So we always refer to the path, the direct effect of your IV on mediator as path A. So it's a common convention that we always, when we say path A, we mean the direct effect of your IV on your mediator, the direct prediction of mediator based on IV. Path B also is a convention to refer to specifically this path, the direct effect of your mediator on your DV. And path C prime, so we have a path C and path C prime that are very similar. That you can see that both are about the direct effect of IV on your DV. So why we call one of them C and one of them C prime? Let's just start with path C. That is actually easier to explain. Path C refers to what we call total effects, a total effect of your IV on DV. So this is actually equal to a simple regression effect when we don't have any, when we are not controlling this effect for any mediator or confounding variable. That means that we still don't have mediator in our model. So in this case, we call it path C because this direct effect of IV on DV is not purely a direct effect. It may include some indirect effects, some mediators that we are not investigating. So for that, we call it a total effects. That means that it may include the combination of all possible direct and indirect effects that our IV can have on our DV. However, when we include a mediator in our analysis, this path is the direct effects of your IV on your DV can be changed. It will not be equal to what it could show you in a simple regression model. When you include a mediator in your analysis, usually, if there is a significant mediation, usually you have a lower effect size here, like the effect of your IV on DV usually reduce. Like for example, if in a simple regression, your IV can predict your DV for 70%, like 70% of variance of your DV. If you have a significant mediator in your mediation analysis, the direct effect of your IV on DV will maybe reduce to 50% instead of 70%. And that's why we call it C prime. C prime means that it is a direct effect of your IV on DV when this direct effect is accounted for the mediating effects of your mediator. That means that we remove the mediating effects of your mediator from the total effects, and now the remaining direct effects of your IV on DV is called C prime. So, and as for example, if some of you have a specific hypothesis about the direct effects of your IV on DV, so actually that hypothesis of yours is concerning, is actually focused on the C prime, not total effects, because you are focused on the pure direct effects of your IV on DV when the effect of mediator is controlled. So that's the difference between total effects and the C prime that we have. So we call this when the direct effects of IV and DV is controlled, is actually pure, and we remove the effects of the mediator from that, is called C prime. Otherwise, when it is not any controlled relationship, and it can include all the effects, direct and indirect effects, we call it total effects or C. So I think I explained all. Just what about AB? So AB is simple. AB is that when you multiply like part A and part B, that means that the combination, the indirect effects actually, and that is the mediating effects that we are looking for, that actually has indirect effects of X on Y through M. That we call it as AB. So when we say mediation effects, we actually focus on the AB path. And we then are interested to see that if this effect is significant or not. If it is significant, we say that there is a significant mediation effect. If it is not significant, that means that the mediator doesn't have a significant role in this mediation model. So this is path AB that is the most important path that we are looking for. However, please note that for path AB to be significant, we usually expect that our path A and B also needs to be significant. It's very rare. I don't say that it's impossible, but it's very rare if you have an insignificant path here, and then you have a significant path, indirect path, that is AB. However, it is common. It can happen that you may have an insignificant C prime while your AB is still significant. So, and that is when we can actually discuss a full mediation versus partial mediation. So I will explain that in the relevant group supervision as well, what is the difference between full mediation and partial mediation, but maybe I can explain it a little bit more here as well. So full mediation means that when you include imagine that you have an IV and DV without considering any mediator. And this relationship is significant. Like for example, your IV can significantly predict your DV when you don't control it for any mediator or any covariate. However, when you introduce a mediator to your analysis and you include your mediator, then this mediation effect can be significant. That, like for example, your analysis telling you that there is a significant mediation. However, you notice that, and also you notice that your path A also is significant, your path B is significant. That means that your IV directly affecting your mediator and your mediator directly affecting your DV. However, you will notice that your C prime is not significant. So this shows actually a full mediation. That means that all the effects of your IV on your DV is actually because of mediator. And that is why when we introduce mediator in the model, we see that the mediation effect is significant, then the C prime, like the direct effects of IV on DV is no longer significant. Why? Because we removed all the contribution of the mediator from these direct effects. And this is not significant anymore. That means that all the actually contribution of all the effects of IV on DV could be fully explained by the mediator. That's why when we remove the contribution of the mediator from this relationship, the direct effects of IV on DV is no longer significant. I would say this is a very rare condition in psychological research, especially when we have a cross-sectional design, when we don't have like an intervention or a manipulation of IV. This is very rare that you have a full mediation. So what we usually can expect in our mediation model based on like a cross-sectional design is partial mediation. That some of you have that specifically in your research aim that you are looking for a partial mediation. Partial mediation means that we expect that all our relationship, either the direct relationships or indirect relationship, can be significant. That means that we expect that our mediator will have a significant mediating effect, will have a significant contribution to our model, but still we don't claim that it will explain all the effect of IV on DV. That means that when we have a partial mediation, that means that our mediating effect, that is AB, is significant. However, our IV also have some significant direct still on DV that is not because of the mediator. For example, imagine that our IV is maladaptive schemas, our DV is social problem solving, and our mediator is like cognitive avoidance. So that means that if everything here is significant, like all these direct pathways are significant, and like C prime also significant, and AB also are significant, that means that cognitive avoidance can significantly mediate the relationship between maladaptive schemas and social problem solving. However, maladaptive schema can still directly predict social problem solving. That means that some parts of the effects of some proportion of the effects of my IV on DV can be explained through mediator, but not all of that. Some other proportion can be either because of the natural direct effects of my IV on DV, or it can be due to some other mediators that that have not been included in my model. So that's why my C prime is still significant. And this is what we are claiming in all of your projects. So in none of your individual projects, we have claimed that we expect a full mediation. We just claim that the mediators that we are suggesting can partially explain the relationship between IV and DV. That means that we acknowledge that there are some natural direct effects of IV and DV that is not necessarily because of our mediation, and we acknowledge that there are some other potential mediators that we have not included in our model. So that's why the C prime in these situations can be significant. So that was this. And also, there's also good to explain that our path B also is sort of not a simple direct effect. So our path A is actually a simple regression effect. That means that if you, for example, run a simple regression analysis, this is very similar, like what the effects of your IV on mediator would be. It's not controlled for an effect of any other variable. However, path B, like the effects of a mediator on DV, it is also a controlled regression effect. That means that is different from a simple regression analysis. Why it is controlled? For what it is controlled? So, what the result of your analysis gives you for path B, or like the effects of your mediator on your DV, is actually accounted for the relationship between the effect of IV on your DV. That means that we have controlled the effects of IV on DV, and then we want to see what is the pure effect of DV, your mediator on DV. So that means that if you want to report this effect, you don't simply say that, like, for example, if this cognitive avoidance and this is social problem solving, you don't say that the direct effect of cognitive avoidance on social problem solving was significant. You say that the direct effect of cognitive avoidance on social problem solving, after accounting for the effect of IV or the effect of maladaptive schema, was significant. So you remember, it's very similar to C prime, that we say that the effects of IV on DV, when we controlled for the effects of mediator. So here also is the opposite of that. We are interested in the effect of mediator on DV when it is controlled for the effect of IV. That means that we control the association, the like collinearity that, for example, the IV and mediator can have together to affect DV. And this is the pure effect that mediator can have on DV. So, I mean, I know this is a little bit complex statistical explanation, but I will, if you see the slides of the group supervision for the methods assignment, it will be clarified better in the session. But I wanted just to let you know that the path B and path C prime are actually pure effects of pure direct effects that have been controlled for irrelevant effects. But path A, no, path A is just a simple regression effects that is IV to mediator. And when we explain the mediation analysis, especially in SPSS, it can make sense better when you see the specific regression models that we are including in our mediation analysis. So, but what is important for your report writing is that you know that what path A means, what path B means, what is the difference between C prime and C, and you need to report them. You need to report specifically what is the effect for path A, what is the effect for path B, AB, that is the indirect effect and mediating effects, and path C prime, that is the direct effects of IV and DV, after accounting for the effect of mediator. And path C, that the total effects, all direct and indirect effects in general that your IV can have on your DV.